A really interesting afternoon here at Djuma Game Reserve. It's been a super hot day. It's one of these temperature spikes where we've had a combination of very, very high temperatures, very, very clear skies most of the day, and now all of a sudden in the late afternoon, clouds that are building up and everything giving us a little indication that there's weather on the way. And, well, there have been some things that I've been noticing lately about this weather change that's coming about. I've noticed harvested termites, and I want to try and see if we can find some of them this afternoon. Harvested termites that have been busy, and they're almost a giveaway. I've noticed other termite species that have been busy, several. There've been ants doing things. I've noticed a couple of great tree frogs that have changed color from their pale estivation state where they normally go pale, getting back a little bit of color. I don't think they're going to be breeding again, but they're certainly going to be absorbing a lot of the moisture that might be coming in. The storm that we're seeing building up now ahead of us, which is to the west, that is probably going to be reaching the likes of maybe Acorn Hook and Thorny Bush, maybe that area. It's a little bit too far to the west for us to be affected by it. But I'm really hoping that something's going to build up for us over the next few days. Is this yours? Yes. Fortunately, this intense heat that we've had today, because we've probably been in the very high 30s, close to 40 degrees today. This is probably around 100, maybe above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a serious temperature spike, and because of this temperature spike, well, normally an indication that there's something on the way. So I'm going to try and look for some signs as we move along this afternoon. Just trying to think what our route should be. What should we do? I want to go up to Buffelshoek Dam. There's some very interesting things. I don't know if you were with us on the morning drive this morning. Some very interesting things happening at Buffelshoek Dam this morning. We were with some elephant on the western side of Djuma. We had a wonderful morning with elephant. In fact, an absolutely fantastic morning with elephant and their calves. And I got a message to say that there was a leopard up at Buffelshoek Dam. We raced up. Well, we did kind of race because we only had half an hour left to drive. We got up to Buffelshoek Dam, and there was quarantine male. He had killed a nyala. There had been super drama. There's a crocodile at Buffelshoek Dam of all places. Although I have to say, in the past few years ago, we did have a crocodile there. We did witness it, and I'm wondering if it's not the same one. In fact, I'd say it probably has to be the same croc who knows about the dam for him to come all this way up a drainage line from maybe dams downstream to come and investigate this dam. But there was evidently a little bit of a tussle between the crocodile and quarantine over the nyala kill. When we got there, the crocodile was having a little, well, while we were with quarantine, we managed to see him, but there was a bit of a commotion down at the dam when we were there, and evidently quarantine was well, he was lying in the shade with us, but there was a hyena too that had stolen a piece of the carcass of the nyala, and there was a bit of a tussle between the hyena and the crocodile. Unfortunately, everybody missed it. We only heard this. We did manage to see the croc for the first time this entire summer. We managed to get a croc on camera, and it looks like this crocodile might have settled in. And Scotty was telling me, because Scott went over there after I was there, just towards the end of drive to have a look, and Scott was saying that he watched this crocodile eat at least 3 terrapins. I know that when we were with him, we saw the croc make a play for a very tiny terrapin. It was like about 2 inches in diameter maybe, and not that common that crocs are eating terrapins, but I guess something needs to thin out the terrapins in these dams. Well, here we go. I wanted to come out here because I wanted to show you. Thanks, buddy. Look at those thunderheads building up down in the south. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. To settle the dust, to just give us a little bit of respite from this hot, dry condition that we've been experiencing the last few weeks. Some incredible thunderclouds that are building way down in the south, a little bit to the southeast. And those, I hope, are going to bring something this way. But what might be even more important is that today is the first day of this kind of build-up, and that tomorrow might be even better. The flies, the termites, the ants, the frogs, there were a bunch of things. I'm going to see if we can find some of these telltale signs this evening so that I can show you what I'm talking about. Little messages. I can even see smoke, to be honest with you. One thing that is hiding a lot of this cloud is almost like a haze, a smog really, which means that there are some fires somewhere already, as dry as it's getting. That's very, very far south. There seem to be might be some brush fires that have started already. It's dry enough to do so, that's for sure. Now, if you don't know what a nyala is, the kill that quarantine male, let's just call him QM, I don't know, quarantine male. I wish we could find another name, personally, but that is his name, everybody knows him as such, big confusing. But he killed a young bull nyala, and you want to know what a young bull nyala looks like? Well, I can show you what an older bull nyala looks like, because there are two of them right here, right now. Good afternoon, boys. And these are two adult bulls. It looks like the bull that he killed is probably only about a year to 18 months. Very, very small horns, from what I could see of the kill. We didn't manage to put the kill on camera this morning. I don't know if it's really that necessary. Maybe when we get there now, maybe if he's on it, we will show it. But I know that it does upset some of the viewers. But this is wildlife. This is the world. This is actually the world we live in. We are the minority, nature is the majority. We have to accept what nature does. If we can't, we shouldn't be here, to a large extent. We just sometimes let our emotions get the better of us. Now, it's not a great view of the nyala, but I'm hoping we might find some others. But I'd like to head up to Buffelshoek Dam. I want to do a few things. Obviously we want to look for the young leopard. We also want to maybe see if we can find a crocodile, because I'm sure there were some of you who were off with our morning drive, but for a lot of you in the Western Hemisphere, a lot of up to 6, anywhere from 2 to 10 hours behind us in time. Not everybody can join us on our morning drives. War dog running away. Oh. Shame about warthogs, they always run away. You've got a warthog eye, yeah?
Yeah, that's the water.
I do, somehow. Need a fly swish. I lost my feather the other day. I had a korhan feather and I lost it. And I need a new little piece of guarri bush. Keep these tiny little muscles. Musca domestica. They're like the same shape and they look exactly like our domestic houseflies, but they're just quarter size. And quite incessant. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, I need to go back to the dam. Completely forgot about something. There's also elephant tracks heading back that way. Scotty told me something. Scott, unfortunately, seems like there's a sound issue now coming from Jigger. We're on Wendy, by the way. Scott and Brian are on Jigger, and we were hoping to open up with Scott, but somehow you got picture but no sound. So for now, I'm just so excited about weather moving in. I completely forgot what Scott told me. Scott told me that there was something below the damn wall that we do need to look at. Oh, and look at that. There's a lady Nyala coming out of the bush. Probably going up to see those two big boys that are up there that we were trying to look at. Female Nyala has no doubt got a family following her. We might find a young bull that is about the same size and age of the one that was killed by quarantine. I just mean, just as a matter of interest to show you, because there's some of you that might not know what we're talking about. Nyala, very pretty antelope. Family of the kudu, that's why they do sometimes look like kudu. And of course, for you out there, you've never been to Africa, you've never seen these animals live, it's very hard for you to gauge the size of these animals because there's nothing to scale them. Female and her lamb looking at the two bulls. In fact, there's a bull coming up to meet her now. We'll see if he's approaching her slowly. Eagerly, quite eagerly approaching her actually, and she's also quite pleased to be seeing him too by the looks of things. Raising his dorsal crest, he's displaying his... Let me go forward a little bit because there's a bush in the way. Oh, he's going to meet his child maybe. That's very strange. Signal is jumpy. We're right here at the dam. Look at this display. The two males. As soon as there's a female in the house, we don't get to see the white of the dorsal crest raised very often. Often we just see them feeding and not very much dominance behavior. Quite an incredible dance that they do when two males square off against each other. Not like this. This is tame. This is friendly. No competition here. She's not in estrus. She's not likely to be in estrus. I don't think. She's got quite a youngster there. It's probably only about 3 months old, 4 months old. But interesting is the difference between a female, what we call a cow, or rather a ewe, and the male that we call a bull. You know, in the larger antelope we call the male a bull and the female a cow. In the smaller antelope we talk about rams and ewes. But Nyala is the size of antelope that is the cutoff point, but the males are still known as bulls and the females are known as ewes and lambs, which is rather unusual because it's kind of the crossover. So perhaps a little bit bigger than impala, half the size of a kudu. Now, there was something else we needed to take a look at. I'm going to leave the Nyala. That beautiful sky, low-hanging cloud. Looks like it's going to pop any minute. Welcome to Africa. And a hot and exciting afternoon. Heading into the end of March already for 2015. A lot of buffalo sleeping at the dam, of course, being a very hot day. Very typical of a hot day, the buffalo bulls that we find around the edges of the water. Sometimes in the water, as we'll see shortly. Cooling down, trying to minimize the amount of irritation from all of these flies. I would do too. I would sit in a swimming pool all day if I had it. Hello boys. Most cool boys. One buffalo there that could be a young bull or a young cow. This dam is losing water very, very fast, and that is the result of these hot, dry days that we've been having. Losing more to evaporation than anything else. If a herd of several hundred buffalo came through, or a big herd of elephant came through, I guess it would lose a few more liters, but most of what is being lost is through evaporation. Fortunately though, which is quite incredible, is that we haven't had any algal blooms, because that can render the water a little bit poisonous. I can hear I think I can hear yellow-billed oxpecker. Looking at the cloud formation, the light filtering through the cloud, a little bit of haze in the air, which is possibly from some fires in the south, because there's definitely some smoke down there, giving us the sun's rays standing out. And that's who I wanted to come and look for, is that big boy. Scotty was here, he was trying to go live with this giraffe earlier, but we're going to just drop down below the dam wall quickly, see if we can see him. And he is moving down the drainage line. We might lose sight of him. I know I did want to head down towards Buffelshoek Dam, especially now that the sun is going to be hidden. I think for most of the rest of the afternoon there's a good chance that we're not going to get much sunshine again, but the temperatures are dropping nicely, it's cooling down, and while it's good for us, it might just mean that things might change around Buffelshoek Dam in terms of what's happening there with leopard and crocodile and nyala remains. While we were there was a juvenile bateleur that flew by. Now the bateleur, although it is a snake eagle and it is very much a hunting eagle, it is also equally a scavenging eagle, and one of the first birds to find a carcass is the bateleur, and we had this juvenile bateleur that arrived this morning. I'm sure he got a good look at what was going on. He didn't land, it didn't land, but I'm sure it got a good look at what was going on. And my impression was that if the bateleur landed, it wouldn't be long before a tawny eagle came along, or a hooded vulture, and if there was a combination of hooded vulture and tawny eagle, then there's going to be a great chance that we're going to get a white-backed vulture and another vulture and so on and so on. And so before you know it, leopard's going to be intimidated and going to move off because there are going to be too many vultures for a leopard. It's different for lion. Lion are able to handle the amount of vulture activity. But I was just speaking about it this morning, funnily enough, that this time we had some giraffe around. There was giraffe at Arathusa Dam, and just after we heard about giraffe at Arathusa Dam, we managed to cross over to Scott to find giraffe at Treehouse Dam. It was wonderful. Look at him. He's actually going to head out onto Twin Dams Road, I hope. Beautiful shot of him with that lovely big cumulus cloud building up behind him. Magnificent old man, this. So it's great to have giraffe back with us again. Hello, Barbet. Crested Barbet. He's obviously had an injury in the past. Quite a magnificent giraffe, I have to say. Adult bull in his prime. Biggest. Very. Hello, Lynn. In Canada. Is this giraffe's head a little bit smaller than normal? Now that you mention it, Lynn, I can see what you mean. It's looking like I think his neck is abnormally thick. He's just a healthy bull. I think proportions are fine, personally. I'm looking at that calcium buildup on his nose, the ossicone, from the ossicones coming down his snout. You can see those ridges that are building up. It's an indication of age, an indication of calcium buildup that occurs there. No, I just think maybe it's an optical illusion, perhaps. Or he's just got a really thick neck. And the only way to do The only way to really tell would be to measure the skull, and that's going to be difficult. Well, most animals stay still to chew their cud. Question from Jennifer. Hi Jennifer, in Toronto. Interesting question, Jennifer, in Toronto. Something that I have to think about. Yes and no, depends. No, I don't mean it that way. When they're selecting their food, when they're actually taking their food from the trees or the grasses, no matter what ruminant they are moving when they're selecting their food, and the ability to chew the cud, and the whole concept of the four stomachs and the ruminant, the whole concept of being a ruminant is that they can actually take time off of selecting their food so that they can rest but still process the food. I think that is one of the reasons why nature gave them this ruminating stomach. So I would say that yes, most of the time you will find that animals are still, when they're chewing the cud, either standing, lying down, not lying down flat, but sort of what we might call sternal repose, lying on their sternum with their legs tucked under them. And those are times when weather's changing and it's getting cold and they're trying to find cover, and all of that harvesting of food that they've done is now given them enough time to take time off of harvesting food to process that food. So yes, I think to a large extent when they're processing that food they are standing still, but by the same token I've seen animals walking where they're no longer selecting or no longer harvesting, no longer collecting food, but they're walking, but they're still chewing the cud, because they're utilizing the time when they're not having to collect food, that they still be able to process the food. But I think to a large extent, I think yes, Jennifer, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time I'd say that animals are stationary when they're chewing the cud, unless they're walking. I think the only difference we could really say for certain is that when they're selecting, when they're actually feeding, when they're actually taking leaves off of the trees, when they're actually taking grasses, if they're grazers, those are the times they're not chewing the cud, and so obviously those are the times when they're moving, because they're moving from tree to tree or from through the grasses. They're filling up the first stomach, as it were, so that they can process the food. So it's mostly standing still or lying down, but they might still be walking when they're chewing the cud. Hello, Sherry. Sherry wants to know what the mark is on his neck. Yeah, I saw there's a bald patch, Sherry. That could be a scar. It could be a patch where he had an injury. I don't know of the incidence of giraffe being affected by bovine TB. Haven't looked into that. I was thinking about it now, because I figured somebody's going to say something about that patch on his neck. But I don't know his history, so I don't know what the origin is of that scar on his neck. So it's kind of a combination of a scar and a bald patch. It is very similar to some of the bald patch we see in buffalo as a result of bovine tuberculosis, bovine TB. Looks like he's going to head up towards Twin Dams Road. Well, I might be able to, so let's carry on. I don't want to force it, I don't want to push it. I can see him move to the back of the car. But most of the time, I have no idea what has been the cause of animals' injury. Sometimes we can clearly see that the previous attempts by lion to catch the animal This particular scar, well, it's healed. It's just a little bald patch. There's interestingly, the oxpeckers are not touching it at all. Looks like we might even get some more sunshine. Look how fast these storms are moving. Gone already to the north. Well, there's the big one at the top and a smaller one at the bottom, and Heather in the UK. Hello, Heather. Is this Heather and Brian Heather? How old or how tall this giraffe is? Well, it's impossible to how old. It's one of my all-time favorite questions. How old? He's about the right size for his age. It's impossible to tell the age of an animal when they become adults without looking at the teeth, and even then you have to be a vet and you have to really know what you're talking about. For a layperson like me, it doesn't matter whether I've been studying these animals, looking at them, or being part of their lives for the last 50 years. It's irrelevant. The fact is, there's absolutely no way of knowing how old animals really are. You know how you can age horses by their teeth? Well, here it doesn't really work that way, because here the animals' diets vary so much, and tooth wear varies from individual to individual. Let me just say this. He is an adult in his prime. Giraffes don't live much longer than 25 to 28 years. Really, I would say up to 30. I would say that he's in his maybe mid-20s, early mid-20s. He's a magnificent big bull. He's not going to get much taller than this. He's probably one of the tallest giraffes we will see, so he's probably just short of 20 feet. Very difficult to say. If he moves off, I'll do the trick that I did with an elephant some time ago. I'll go and stand there next to that tambuti tree. And in fact, what I'm going to do, let me just move a little bit forward. What's interesting is that he's eating tambuti. So I'll move a little bit forward, and I don't want to move the vehicle again, because if we look at those lowest branches that are just below his shoulders. Hello, Mr. G. Some of those lowest branches that we can see from that tambuti. I'm going to stand exactly where his front, I can see where his front leg is, and we'll wait here until he's moved off. Or I could just get out and walk up to him, but then he's going to run off and he's going to just probably hurt himself. One of the things that might be the result of, or rather the cause of that scar on his neck, is being attacked by a lion or being chased through the bush in the darkness of night and having a bit of a graze, a bit of an injury by brushing against a tree. I don't know. It's impossible to tell. It's really impossible to tell. I'm going to have to look into the incidence of giraffe, whether they are susceptible to bovine TB, and maybe it's a TB lesion, because it looks very similar to a buffalo's TB lesion. And there I thought we were going to have an afternoon of cloud and shade. So much for that then, yeah. Sun pops out and it's 100 degrees again. Sarah in California. Hello, Sarah. How many sets of teeth do they have? Are they similar to other grazers? Sarah, they only get 2 sets of teeth. They're just like us. They're baby teeth and they're adult teeth. And I don't know when that changes. Really, I don't. And what we refer to giraffe as browsers. Grazers are animals that eat grass. Browsers are animals that eat leaves. And they are similar to other browsers of the herbivores, of the ruminants. It is only the elephant that has 6 sets of teeth. All other mammals go through 2 sets of teeth, and those teeth are vertically replaced rather than horizontally replaced like elephants. So most other mammals go through a very similar tooth replacement like we do, because they have individual teeth that can be replaced, and one at a time. It doesn't mean that an animal is going to be completely toothless for a moment, but because elephants have an entire set of teeth rather than individual molars, the molars have combined to form an entire molar set. It just doesn't work for elephant that they lose one and will have to wait for another, because in the time of waiting for another set of molars to come out, they would die of starvation. But when tooth replacement is vertical the way it is with us and all other mammals, you can replace one tooth at a time and still have other teeth that are in play to be able to feed on and to be able to graze or browse if you're a browser or a grazer. It doesn't really make a difference whether they're grousers or browsers. Grazers. I'm getting tongue-tied here. Whether they eat grass or leaves, the fact is that it is rather a corrosive substance that they're eating, and it does dictate the age that the animal gets, rather than getting too old and decrepit to move around. But it's more a case of when the teeth wear. Once the teeth are worn, there's not much in the way of enamel to process the food, and so they can die relatively soon after. Now, without moving the vehicle, I'm just going to take a quick walk to those lower branches. And I know some of you have got a bit of practice with this because we've done it with elephant before. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and stand there, and I'm going to try and reach up to those lowest branches of this tree that he was browsing at. And I'm going to see if some of you can do a comparison photo, and maybe I'll give you an exact measurement of the height of my fingers when I'm stretching up like this. I'll give you an exact height, and then you can extrapolate from that, and we can see how tall this giraffe really is. Hello, lizard. Oh, can you see this lizard?
No, it's just out of shot.
Yeah, in front of me now. The lizard was just too precious. I think it was a spotted sandfelt lizard. I'll pull out my reptile book and we can see that. But anyways, those lowest branches that look like they're only a few feet off of the ground are actually well over 7 feet off of the ground. I was lifting my hand. I'm going to get an idea of how high it is to my fingers when I'm stretching up like that. And of course, not wearing shoes, we don't have to worry about any inches lost because of shoes or no shoes. So it'll give you an idea if you compare his height with my height. I'll give you an idea how big a giraffe is. Beautiful lizard. And he had his burrow there. But what is most remarkable about it is that I love reptiles. I mean, I love everything, and I love, well, it's so hard to actually get a good look at them, and this lizard was so totally unafraid. I don't think it ever sees humans, because I don't know how many times humans walk around down here. Unfortunately, the giraffe didn't really take kindly to my walking around, and he kind of ran off through this Tambuti forest. A really beautiful Tambuti forest. We need to get out of here, get back up onto Twin Dam Road, if we can. Lovely. I also noticed that there was that little bit of a break and you see a bit of a car there as well. So whatever the trade patch on his neck affected him there as well. We live in the bush, and sometimes we could run away from that, we run against trees. We don't really need to harp every scar and scratch that animals have, because that's just the nature of it. Living out there in Africa, they develop character over time. But I guess what I'm saying is there's absolutely no way, given the size I have and the amount of get to see these individuals, there's absolutely no way of knowing what happened to an individual unless we witness an incident and then sometime down the line we get to see that same individual again, and we're able to then follow up on that incident. One thing that comes to mind is when we were in Thornybush, one of the times with that young male from the Red Dam Pride, that male that we saw quite often. There was an incident that came in from Timbavati, and they had to fight, and he got a cut lip, and from then on we noticed, even when it healed, we noticed his lip had this scar on it. And so it was one of those really rare moments. We could actually say, well, you know what, that scar on his lip, we actually witnessed, well, we didn't witness it happening, but we know where it came from. We know the day that it happened because we were there when it happened, and it was a fresh injury when we saw him. But a situation like this with the giraffe, we don't know its history. There's no way of knowing where an injury or where a scar comes from. I can show you some of my scars and tell where they come from, but hardly as interesting. There's something. Yeah, I saw that mongoose. The mongoose. Yeah, it was a mongoose. Thanks, Nikki. Could be it's not straight. It could be because it's, we need to secure it. See how it's swaying. Try to that. That's why it's jumping. Lovely dark cloud building up in the south. I think we're going to have a little bit of a break from this heat and flies and dust. Look at this man. He's a magnificent giraffe. I'm not too sure if this is one of the same giraffe you saw earlier today with Scott. Look how he's so proud. He's just standing in a patch of shade where not so long ago in the shade of this wattle tree we had an entire pride of lion lying down. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which way to put it, I don't like to interfere with animals, I don't like to influence their behavior at all, but I maybe didn't wait long enough for him to move from that Boertie forest. When I went in, yeah. But he clearly didn't like me being on foot, and he ran off. And now that we see him out in the open, Lynn, Canada, have a look at the size of his skull against it. Now it's looking a little bit more sort of proportional. I think it was the angle that we were at. But Grace in Texas, hello Grace. Grace wanting to know what the birds are that are on the giraffe. They're the same birds we saw on the buffalo earlier, Grace, and birds that we find. It's the only type of bird we'll find on an animal. It's known as an oxpecker. And they have developed this niche in nature that no other bird can fulfill. There are a couple more arriving too, in that they pick off the parasites in the animal, they glean them of ticks and fleas and flies and mites. We have a lot of flies that are bothering us right now that are tiny little flies flying around, but for animals there are a host of different species of flies, some of which don't even have wings. They crawl over the animals' bodies with really weird shape. They're like something out of a science fiction movie. I don't even think Spielberg could come up with some of the stuff that nature's got. I have to be honest, because I can show you pictures in the book, in fact. Things called bat flies, and, well, they're horse flies. There's just some really weird stuff out here. And it's up to the oxpeckers to help the giraffe maintain, or any animal for that matter, except elephant and predators, but all of the herbivores, help them maintain some sort of semblance of sanity by keeping that parasite load down. These are mostly red-billed oxpeckers, but having seen some yellow-billed oxpeckers, which are very rare at the moment down here in the south, I mean, up in East Africa you get a lot of yellow-billed oxpeckers, but down in South Africa it's been a long time. In fact, there's been a reintroduction program, breeding and reintroduction program as far as I know, to try and re-establish the populations of yellow-billed oxpeckers, because yellow-billed oxpeckers tended to head towards domestic cattle. And it's the advent of the cattle dip and the de-ticking toxins that we produce for our domestic cattle that have killed off the populations of yellow-billed oxpeckers down here, that now, only now, with awareness of the yellow-billed oxpeckers finally coming back. And I have to be honest, a few days ago, maybe actually it was a couple of weeks ago, when I saw a couple of yellow-billed oxpeckers, actually there were about 3 yellow-billed oxpeckers on some kudu. I think they were the first yellow-billed oxpeckers, if I remember correctly, the first yellow-billed oxpeckers I've ever seen here in the Sabi Sand. I can't say that I've even seen yellow-billed oxpeckers at home in the Timbavati. Certainly had my fair share of them up in Kenya and Tanzania, but out here, entirely different matter. We've got a vehicle coming along. I'm going to move out of the way a little bit so that I can get past. I had a water bottle that wasn't completely iced over, and it's already melted, and we haven't even, what's it, half an hour or so?
2 minutes.
whatever. With this, it was solid ice. How fast can a giraffe run? I'm just looking at this old boy and I'm seeing a couple of very serious scars on his tummy. He must have had a few encounters with lion in his past. There's some lion claw marks on his stomach. Just in front of his thigh there, where the pattern stops going around onto his tummy. Probably had a lion hanging on underneath him. Christy is asking how fast can a giraffe run. She says she's seen maybe 50 kilometers an hour. I have to say I've never really measured, but I know they run fast. I know that they're exceptionally quick. Just want to say hello here. How are you? How's she?
Hi.
Good. Cool. Are you heading up to Buffelshoek Dam?
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go.
Cheers. Did you see that? Arethusa vehicle coming on to see quarantine male. Not much happening on Arethusa, saying that there's elephant and buffalo. We've had such a shortage of giraffes. I think we'll just spend a little bit of time with him once he finally, because now he's finally sort of relaxing and going back to doing giraffe things. How fast can they run? I know they can run very, very fast. I know that giraffe have the ability to run faster than a racehorse sometimes, but you've got to imagine, or you've got to remember that giraffes feed on leaves, so they're always around trees. They can never really run in a straight line. And I think if you put a giraffe on a racetrack, yeah, it'll run fast. Don't know how you're gonna convince it to run fast. But sorry, I've just got to look at something. I saw something from a distance. Look at this white thing here. The guarri bush. Same thing that I picked this morning, only this one is brand new. These are still unbelievable. If I have to look, can see the tip of my finger covers 10, so there's probably well over 100, maybe 120 pupa there. These are tiny little pupal cases. From some of them have hatched. In fact, I can see the lids have opened on a couple of these. And if we sat here long enough, we'll probably find a couple of these little wasps coming out. These are little parasitic wasps. But what is very interesting about them, this is something I found this morning, so it's obviously the time of the year when this is happening, and I've kept it all morning, and I was hoping to talk about it this morning, but we got so busy with elephants that I didn't really get to it. This was on a grass stalk, and this is the same thing. It's a little bit smaller than that, so that must have been a bigger caterpillar. But here are, you can see each individual little pupal case carries the wasp. The larva turns into a pupa, spins a cocoon, much like a silkworm, much like any moth or butterfly, but it's a wasp. And then they've all hatched. But the most remarkable thing about this is that it comes out of a caterpillar, and this caterpillar, this is what we call a parasitic wasp, or a super parasitic wasp, in fact, in that the eggs of this wasp are so tiny that the eggs actually get swallowed by the caterpillar and into the actual stomach chamber of the caterpillar, as opposed to the kind of wasp that might sting a caterpillar and lay its egg within the caterpillar, and while the caterpillar is munching about, that egg hatches, and the larva of that wasp then starts eating the caterpillar from the inside until it gets to a point where that single wasp larva emerges from the caterpillar and becomes a pupa and then flies away as an adult wasp. That is a parasitic wasp. This is a super parasitic wasp, because this parasitic wasp doesn't really prey on the caterpillar, it preys on the larva within the caterpillar. Science fiction and movies don't really cover this kind of stuff. It really happens in nature. Science fiction and movies don't really cover this kind of stuff that really happens in nature. So what is really happening here is that the caterpillar of a moth has been stung by a wasp, or it has been impregnated by a wasp. A wasp laid its egg within the caterpillar, and that larva, that when that egg was supposed to hatch, it was supposed to eat that caterpillar from the inside out and eventually pupate. But these are super parasitic wasps. They are less than maybe a millimeter long when they're adult. They're tiny little things. These little pupae are only about a millimeter long, and the eggs are so tiny, and the wasp lays the eggs on the edges of a leaf that they don't even get damaged when the caterpillar is eating the leaf. They just get consumed and swallowed by the caterpillar. So they end up in the stomach of the caterpillar. They then emerge as larvae, not necessarily to eat the caterpillar, but they then emerge to eat the larva of the wasp that's inside the caterpillar, parasitizing the caterpillar. Does that sound really weird? I don't know if you're following me, but it's something out of a different dimension. And what happens is that instead of the caterpillar spinning a cocoon itself, it becomes so disoriented and so brain damaged that all it does is it spins a little bit of a silk mat that it stays on, and then before you know it, you have 20, and in this case on this guarri bush, up to 100 baby wasps. No, they're not baby wasps, they're actually adults, but tiny little wasps, all as larvae, as these little grubs emerging out of the back of the caterpillar as it's still alive and still writhing in death, spinning these cocoons as they come out of the caterpillar, and then within 12 to 24 hours popping out of those cocoons as adult wasps. If it's too confusing, I'll try and write it in a story. It's why I call it remarkable. It's truly remarkable. There's another one just below. In fact, that bin is one further down. Now what I want to do is I want to see if we can't find the caterpillar actually in the throes of death with the hopefully we're going to find, maybe I'm going to keep my eyes out, hopefully I can find a caterpillar in the throes of death with these little wasp larvae emerging from. I've seen it, I've photographed before digital cameras were out. I've got it in photographs somewhere in a box with all my other photographs, as we all do. But it's uncanny. Anyways, what did Caroline say, Mickey? Thank you. Lovely big waterbuck bull over here. We were talking about giraffe and speeds and things, and Caroline has come back to us to say, I don't know, numbers. I'm sorry, numbers don't work for me. Yes, there are numbers that are given. Giraffe is running, it's not running in a straight line. A giraffe has to deal with the terrain that it's living in. But they are fast runners, let's put it this way. They are very fast runners. They can probably outrun on flat ground. They go to duck for branches, and that's what slows them down, and that's what makes them easier to hunt. I don't know if we're going to get to see this waterbuck bull again, but he is here. I was going to go and see if we could catch up with Quarantine Male, but it sounds like, I mean, my impression of what's going on the radio, there are a lot of landowners here at the moment, plus there are a lot of other of the lodges that have traversing here. There's not much happening on a very hot afternoon, and everybody, sounds like everybody, is making their way up to Buffelshoek Dam, which means that we're just going to let them all, we're just going to need to give them time, that all the guests from the lodges go and photograph and get to see the leopard, and in time we'll get there. I'm hoping that maybe Scott has made his way up there too. Magnificent waterbuck bull that we have here. I don't know where our giraffe has gone. He's moved on a little bit. Yeah. His head is hidden. Is hiding. But he will move, I'm hoping. Let me see, we can go around this little patch of guarri and silver cluster leaf. No good looking at a waterbuck rump, although it is an interesting rump from the white ring perspective. The most interesting side of a waterbuck bull, of course, is his horns and his head. And so far he's quite relaxed. So if only he just stays that way for a moment. Oh, there's so much guarri in the way. If I go any closer he's going to turn around and run, I think. Then I can try. And only try. Seems he's listening out for other things at the moment, so he might not be too concerned with us. Made some branches make a noise. Oh, please stay there, Mr. Waterbuck. There we go. Such a magnificent bull. Ruben wants to know, why does a waterbuck have a white ring on its rump? Well, I was always taught, Ruben, when I was a youngster, when I was growing up, 2, 3, 4 years old, my mum always told me it was because they sat on the toilet seat when the paint was still wet. But really what it is all about is, to a large extent, and look, we will never know. As humans, we can only speculate. We can only think that we know. We can only assume. I mean, part of it, yes, is when they're walking, they're often walking in single file, so it's kind of a visual signal for youngsters to follow or others to follow. One of the main things is, in terms of flag signaling, in terms of non-verbal communication amongst individuals, we see all the other animals have very, very different markings, and that is so that no other animal can get confused with the sign language that is being sent by the combination of the markings on the rump and the position of the tail, because that is quite crucial to their survival. And with waterbuck, well, no, he's turning away. But with waterbuck, it's very similar too. They don't have the white on the tail, they don't have the distinctive markings that other animals do. But what they do have with that ring and with the way that their tail swings, the position of the tail against that ring of white around the rump is a visual and non-verbal communicative tool between individuals to be able to talk to each other in a way, to be able to send signals to each other in a way that lessens the need or diminishes the need for them to actually have to vocalize. Because let's face it, when you've got a lot of animals out here that want to eat you, you don't want to be going around talking to each other and not listening. You want to be listening as much as possible, but what you do want to be doing is still communicating some form of message, something to other individuals. Even if he's on his own, he's still doing these things. And the positioning of the tail, the way he flicks his tail against that background of white, is a very, very important visual signal to other waterbuck or other individuals. Oh, it's a very interesting question, having to think about that one, Peggy. Do oxpeckers sit on waterbuck? I'm trying to think if I've ever seen oxpeckers on waterbuck. I probably have, or I probably haven't. I don't know. I've never thought of it. Certainly no oxpeckers on him at the moment. I think Peggy's asking the question too, because, well, waterbuck have quite a strong scent about them. Something I'm certainly going to look for, Peggy, in the next. Well, we don't get to see many waterbuck. We used to have a good family of waterbuck around here at Djuma Dam, but of late, not so much. But waterbuck do have this secretion that is quite a strong secretion that might affect the oxpeckers that might be on them. It's like an oily substance, something that we can actually physically smell at times. So I'm very interested. It's something I've never really thought of. So I'm going to certainly look at that. Who would have thought? Lovely question from Ruben. Hello, Ruben. I was looking at those ridges on the horns and I was waiting for somebody to ask about them, but Ruben is asking more a question of, are the rings on the horn some indication of how old the waterbuck is? Yes and no, Ruben. Yes, because the older the waterbuck gets, the more distinctive or the more pronounced those ridges on the horns become. But the ridges there on the horns are more It's kind of like the difference between a serrated knife and a smooth knife. For a, actually, no, bad analogy, but kind of in their sparring, when they're fighting, those rings, when they're fighting, just hang on a sec, I was going to talk to Scotty. Go ahead, Scott. That's a good plan, Scott. I mean, I'm still just below Gary Dam with Giraffe, and I've just had water buck and things. I haven't really gotten very far, but I know there are a lot of vehicles that are heading that way, so I was sort of giving them a break. Scott, you're not reading me. Okay, copied. Yeah, Scott, if you could find out what the standby is and what that fighting is like at the moment. Thanks, Nikki. Some rather strange. Candace, come in. Are you in a cruiser? Okay, copy. Scott, come in. Nikki, come in. Please tell Scott that it's a Mahindra, not a Land Cruiser. Which dam? Gary Dam? Not at the moment. I'm going to get up there, but I'm just trying to figure out what we're going to do with the spare for Candace. I mean, I am close enough that I could take it, but it'd probably be better for Scott to do so, and if he's going there and he gets signal, he can be there. Unfortunately, there are a lot of vehicles there, and I want to stay away from there, but I'm going to slowly make my way that way. Folks, there are. It seems like the only thing that is going this afternoon for a lot of the vehicles because of the heat, and it's most likely because of the heat. No animals are moving around much, or other than what we've seen, but vehicles from several other lodges haven't had much luck with other animals today, and so the only animal that has been, only really real thing that has been of great interest, I suppose, because it's a leopard, is quarantine male at Buffelshoek Dam, and that has meant that there are a number of vehicles that are going there. Now, I don't want to go and just sit and wait for our turn to see a leopard. I'd rather go, because the game drive vehicles that go to the leopard will go and view the leopard, they'll take photographs, and they'll leave, because they're going to need to cycle vehicles through that sighting. And as much as I want to take you there with the camera, whether we're here and we're going down into Philemon's Dip, I'm going to stop by Treehouse Dam, whether we're here or we go up there and we sit and wait, the time is going to be about the same. I'm hoping that later on there's a green wooded book. I'm hoping that once a lot of those vehicles have gotten through that sighting and had their photographs and seen the leopard, that we'll get a turn to go through there. I don't want to rush there and find that there are just vehicles everywhere. So we're going to take our time, and we're going to see what else we can find in the industry. But I'm not going to forget you, and I'm certainly going to get it soon enough. The problem is, at the moment, is that there's added complications. There's a vehicle in the sighting that has a flat tire rather, and well, that means that another vehicle has to go there that is not part of the sighting to deliver. I don't know how they're going to get it. I don't know how they're going to do that, and us being there is just going to complicate issues. So for the time being, I'm going to take a route that will get us there. I'm sure that when we get there, we don't have this many vehicles, and a vehicle with a flat, and another vehicle coming in with a spare tire. So please be patient with me. I want to show you the leopard, but we're just not going to right now. We're going to see if there's anything at Treehouse Dam. Fortunately, some more cloud coming over in the western sky that is cooling it down again. It was getting hot again. We had some sunshine. Okay, no problem. Yeah, not to worry. Do the water buck have an underlayer of hair that we do not see? Hello, Marsha. How's Kentucky today? I think, Marsha, almost every single animal has an underlayer of hair that we do not see, an insulating layer. Yes, water buck do. Even your domestic animal has an underlayer of hair that we don't see, that help with insulation and thermoregulation. Okay, so how far is he? Okay, if you could just stop him and ask him to go back to the camera room, pick up my spotlight I left on charge. Buffalo here, Treehouse Dam. Thank you. Breeze past Buffalo. This is Treehouse Dam, by the way, on our way to Buffalo Dam. Kind of a similar status quo to Gari Dam. Buffalo chewing the cud, lying in the water, lying on the edge. Hey boys. Perhaps in a bit when I cross this drainage line. Thanks. Oh, an Impala ram and an ox picker. Oh, and a slender mongoose. He just frightened a slender mongoose who's stopped right there on the edge. Gone. Tail just disappearing. Interesting. Slender mongoose was just behind the Impala. The Impala ran, frightened the oxpecker and the slender mongoose. So, giraffe tracks from another bull. I don't know if it's the same bull. Could be. Another big bull giraffe that went that way, so it could be him. Some elephant tracks. Which station do I think we're sighting in Buffalo's Dam? Okay, copied. Any standbys? Just to let you know that we are aware of it. Nikki and Pete are in contact and they are trying to sort some issues out, especially with Jigger, that you can actually get some time with Scott and Brian. So, it's just technical difficulties, technical issues that we are experiencing. Weird stuff happening out there in the celestial realm of space and the universe. Alignments of the sun and the moon and Venus and go ahead. Thanks, Candice. I'm still down on Twin Dams coming across on Chinyala Road South, so I'll still be a little while, but I'm making my way there. Ooh, tortoise tracks in front of me. Sorry, Nikki was on the other radio. Go again. Terry in Ohio, morning. Morning to all of you in Ohio. Are the dams that we visit man-made? Most of them, yes, Terry. Most of them are man-made. They have what we call a drainage line that has been excavated, and that which has been excavated has been piled up to form what we call a dam wall, or a wall to dam up the water. And this stems from many years ago, days before the Sabi sand was incorporated into Kruger, and even prior to that, days when individual properties in the Sabi sand were fenced in. And if we look at the size of Djuma, I mean the main area of Djuma is about 2,500 acres. There would have been a time perhaps when that was entirely fenced in, and it was necessary then to provide water for the animals. So no matter what size the predator property is, in the past, a lot of these properties were self-contained properties, and through the efforts of conservation and more aware landowners, that fences came down. The Sabi sand was established as a private reserve, and then eventually in the early 90s they finally managed to convince the Kruger National Park to be incorporated into the Kruger National Park. That more fences came down. So a lot of these dams are leftovers. They're from days when these were self-contained, and they are still maintained as dams to handle the water requirements of a lot of people that ordinarily would have maybe moved to some of the more permanent rivers, maybe further to the west, closer to the mountains, or further to the south where there are the Sand and the Sabi rivers, or to the north where there's the Timbavati River, the Manuleti River. No sign of him going in. Copy that. Now what I'm doing is I'm making my way to Buffalo's Dam. One of the reasons why I wanted to come this way to get to Buffalo's Dam is I wanted to have a look in this riverbed. This crocodile that has found its way to Buffalo's Dam must have come up one of these drainage lines, and I'm not sure where he came from. There was a time about 4 years ago when we had a crocodile at Buffalo's Dam. I'm pretty sure it's the same croc, because it's a crocodile that clearly is well aware of the presence of the dam, to be able to come from another dam, to be able to move overland from another water point to get to the dam. I thought we'd come through the Mulwati to see if maybe this crocodile came up the Mulwati. I guess rather unusual in that crocodile was moving outside of a very wet time of year. It's been pretty dry. I'm not seeing any tracks here in the Mulwati, funnily enough. But there are other riverbeds that he could have come up. It's almost impossible to tell where it came from for me personally. Maybe some of the guides might have an idea, but we also don't know when it got here. It might have been here for a couple of weeks already, but we just haven't seen it, because kind of a case of out of sight, out of mind. We haven't seen a croc there, so we haven't thought of looking for a crocodile there. I mean, in the last few months, I've certainly personally experienced crocodile at Buffalo's Dam many occasions in the past, but not thinking about it, not seeing it, not thinking that it's there, one doesn't take the effort to investigate. And of course, crocodiles can be so secretive. I mean, how are you going to look for just the two little nostrils that are maybe a couple of inches apart sticking out of the water, unless you catch it out of the water and you see it diving back in? But now that we know it's there, at least we can have this wonderful, the next few days, or however long it's going to be there, it's going to be wonderful to be able to get to Buffalo's Dam and to be able to maybe spend some time observing it and seeing what it's going to do. It was evidently eating terrapins this morning. I did see it making a play for a very tiny terrapin. There's probably a very good fish population there. I don't know what this crocodile's feeding habits are. I don't know whether it's going to be going for the likes of Nyala and Impala and some of the larger mammals. That is debatable. Wow, big elephant tracks, but he was heading south and we just happened to be heading north because we got to go and see a leopard, and wondering if there's something left of his kill. Fortunately, by the sounds of things, I just had an update. There are not many vehicles there anymore, and it's now time for us to go and enjoy it. But we are still a little bit away from there. It'll take us a few minutes to get there. Hello, starling. Hello francolins. Crested francolins. Come children. Didn't your mother teach you any road sense? You cross the road, you don't run along it. Anna Marie. Hello Anna Marie. Anna Marie's asking if there are any animals that migrate out of Djuma. Apart from the birds, that is. Any animals that migrate. I don't think we can call it a migration, Anna Marie. We can call it seasonal movement. You know, I think migration implies a number of animals getting together and then all moving together, much like they do in other parts of Africa. So there isn't really a migration in South Africa. We don't have that here in Kruger. There is seasonal movement, most certainly. There's hello mama. Oh wow. I know this Ellie because she's got such distinct tusks. Hello Mrs. Elephant. Elephants, giraffe, zebra, wildebeest to some extent, kudu to some degree. A lot of animals seasonally utilize different areas, so there is that animal movement seasonally, but no real migration. Very distinctive tusk configuration in her, one down and one up. Yeah, I'm just being a little delayed on Nyala Road South with some Ndlov. Hello, Mrs. Ellie. Make our way to Buffelshoek Dam. I think there's still one or two vehicles that are going to be making their way to the sighting with the leopard, but most of the vehicles have moved on. They, I guess, hoping to find other animals on the way. Leaving Small Columbia and Glove, heading south on Nyala Road South. Hate leaving Ellie's, but sometimes we just got to make hay while the sun shines. see spots for that matter. Oh, what is that? Dwarf mongoose. I think running into this termite now. Yep. Matsikitso. Local name for dwarf mongoose is Matsikitso. Can I spell it? No. Which kind is that? I know there's been for a while. He's a big boy. Look at that wonderful big warthog boar. Oh, he's massive. I think this boy's seen his fair share of leopard and lion and cheetah and everything. I think as magnificent as that big giraffe bull was, and as magnificent as that big waterbuck bull was, this is their counterpart. I'm sorry, boy. You don't like me talking. This is a warthog in his prime. You're not going to find much bigger than that, like the giraffe and the waterbuck. He's looking at us now. A little bit of grass in the middle, in between, but left tusk clearly the tool that he uses because it's so much more worn than his right tusk. But that is probably one of the biggest warthogs I can find for you at the moment. You just see the size of those warts on the top. His top pair of warts below his ears, they're almost as long as his ears. Quite a remarkable boy. And of course, you know what, I have no idea how old he is. Please don't even ask. No clue. But clearly this is a warthog that has seen many, many things. And for him to still be around, it's quite a feat of survival. Just come in if you can. Just come off Nala Road North, approaching the dam now. Okay, copy that. I'll just deal with it. Thanks, Nikki. We left him this morning. He was right here on the road, and then he went to lie back up onto the dam wall. There is, of course, the complication that there's a vehicle here getting a spare tyre changed right here in the siding, so there's a bit of noise. There's going to be, but that can't be helped because oh. I'm driving right past him looking for him and he's sitting right here. Totally ignoring the commotion going on and the wheel change that's going on. I'm going to go back a little bit so we don't have grasses, too many grasses. I don't know how many times I've driven past a leopard because I'm looking 20-30 yards ahead and the leopard ends up being almost right here in front of us. Oh, he doesn't, sorry quarantine boy, he doesn't like me slapping myself with the gory bush. I think he's probably also hot and bothered. He's probably had his fair share of vehicles today. Him. No, not a good idea, but they're also done now. So he really doesn't like me shaking my guarri branch. Why is he panting? Oh, look who's arrived in front of us. Scott and Brian helping out the vehicle that had a breakdown. Why is he panting? Panting for a couple of reasons, probably. For those of you who are asking, I believe there's a little bit of a query coming through on Twitter. It's hot. Or like a dog, or a cat, or a bird, or many animals that aren't able to sweat the way we do. Their only way of cooling down is panting, passing air over the tongue and the salivary glands, cooling down the body. Panting probably because he is also quite full. He killed a nyala, a young nyala bull, and he's probably got a little bit of a full tummy. And with a full tummy, it puts pressure on the diaphragm. Panting helps a lot of things. Looks like he's getting up. He's going to go back to his carcass. Or he's heading back towards where his carcass was, actually. So we'll see if we can stay with him. Heading straight to Scott and Brian. Oh, Liam, I know we are with a leopard, but I've got an insect that I really have to... Oh, it's gone. Never mind. Now let's pull away and let's get the vehicle with the leopard. Give you an idea of what it looks like when we're sitting with a leopard. Not often that we can show you a vehicle because, well, most of the vehicles we have to try and keep them away from the camera, but there's Scott and Brian and quarantine male Jigger in its element. Yeah, he's going straight back to the carcass. Hello, Scott. Hello, Brian. Yeah, it looks like he's... That's where the carcass is, just here, just off of the dam wall. And not very much left of the carcass at all, in fact. There was a hyena here earlier today. They managed to get a piece. I believe there was a little bit of a tussle with the crocodile earlier this morning. Here's the hyena coming now. And might be a little bit of an interaction between the two of them. Rather a big hyena. Looks like it's been lying in the mud for a while. Hello, Marius. Have I ever encountered... Oh, Marius is in Cape Town. Okay, in a minute. Can't talk right now. He's just acquiescing. He'd rather let the hyena take the carcass rather than confront it and maybe have an injury. And all the hyena wanted was to drag it away a little bit. Really interesting activity going on right now. See, quarantine, as long as the hyena's got something to occupy itself with, he's not in any danger. The hyena's not really going to go for him at all. One of those times when, as long as the hyena's got something to concentrate on, he doesn't have to worry.
He doesn't have a tail.
Yeah, a hyena doesn't. Hyena's a really old hyena, doesn't have a tail. Good call there, Viam. Is it okay with the light?
Absolutely. Save me from flashing it.
Wow, this hyena's really old and battered. Chewed right here. No tail. I don't think I've ever seen this hyena before. You see, it's not worth his trouble confronting the hyena. A predator with an injury is a dead predator. A predator with an injury is not going to be very successful hunting. So self-preservation is a very important factor. Hyenas very wary of other things. It's not a young hyena, that's for sure. I'm out of battery. Camera's dead. Natalie's asking why the kill isn't up a tree. Very few trees in the immediate vicinity, Natalie. Although there are one or two. But I'm afraid the only one that can answer that is Quarantine himself. He is the only one that can tell us why he didn't take it up a tree. It looks like he might have fed considerably on this carcass. I'm also wondering whether he killed it or maybe he just stumbled upon a dead nyala. Just looking at what is consumed on this kill, there's certainly a lot more that's been consumed than is able to fit in his little belly.
I was wondering even if the crocodile didn't potentially catch the nyala.
And then they took it away from the croc.
Possible.
That's a good call there, Scott. Although
regarding the crocodile, trying to steal some from it this morning. Do you think it will try again tonight?
yes, I mean, I've seen that in Salou and that they'll come out.
More prominently do it at night than during the day, or both?
I've only seen it during the day, but that's not to say what they do at night, because they're more active at night. But I've seen crocs walk quite far out of the lakes in Salou. Interesting thought from Scott. I don't know if you heard that, but Scott was saying that maybe the croc caught the nyala, and in the struggle maybe he was, Quarantine was around, and maybe he and maybe it's a conundrum we will never know. That might be a reason why. It's no reason. That's not really anything to do with why it wasn't up a tree, I suppose. But a hot day like today, the kind of climate and temperature that's least likely to have other predators moving around, could be some reason. We've seen karula. Well, I've many occasions seen leopard feeding in thick bush rather than taking their prey up a tree, because there isn't a great likelihood of other predators coming around to steal the kill. But this is not a today's kill. I mean, this is easy 2 days old. I'm wondering, because we had him down here at the bottom of the damn wall. I'm wondering if he also might not have taken a nyala and the croc dragged it. There's just, there are so many possibilities here. So that's definitely more than a 1 day old kill. That somehow we missed it yesterday. Just looking at the amount of meat being taken, the ribs that have been eaten, and the smell. Smell's giving it away too. Not a fresh kill. But then again, in this heat, bacteria acts very, very fast. And what we're smelling is the decomposition part of life, triggered by bacteria. Quite a unique circumstance where we're able to watch a hyena feeding on a carcass being watched on by a leopard Just over the hyena's back we can see the leopard. I'm going to just sit quietly now. I'm not going to talk for a bit. Let's just experience this moment in silence. Human silence. Go ahead with it, Nikki. Question from Bob asking which of the two animals poses the greatest danger to the other, and I think what we've witnessed is evidence of it, in that the leopard giving way to the hyena, most definitely the hyena under these circumstances, heavier, bulkier, bigger, and able to inflict far greater injury to a hyena than or rather to the leopard than the leopard can do to the hyena. Even though leopard is smaller, maybe more agile, it's got claws that can maybe rake the hyena, but young, inexperienced leopard versus this really old and battered hyena, I think there's no question about it. That's why he's keeping his distance. He's not trying anything. He's just letting the hyena do what it has to do. And as long as he lets it, as long as he doesn't challenge the hyena, as long as he just sits quietly, the hyena, all the hyena wants is to eat. She's not exactly a skinny hyena. Who knows, she might even be pregnant. There we go, got a big chunk of meat. With a bit of bone. Probably a vertebra maybe. Another hyena comes along, he'll go up a tree. I just heard another hyena. As I said that, another hyena behind us coming in. I could hear it walking. And I think he's going to probably... He's probably going to make an exit, because one is easy to handle, but for two hyena, he's probably going to be a little bit discreet about his presence now. Hissing at the second one coming in. Pity we can't see him behind the hyena too well. Wondering if this is not another...
Are we good here still?
All good.
Can we keep coming?
Yeah.
Are you guys doing that? You clear?
No,
You can't get through that? Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's what I've had to deal with.
Well, most likely clanmate. Sisters. A sisterhood. Rosie wants to know how close they are to each other. Probably about 10 feet, Rosie. From little QM on the left, diagonally forward to the two hyena. Roughly about 10 feet.
imagine seeing the elevation.
We can't, unless you go in from that range.
Yeah.
We can get back some salt.
I can move, you can come here.
Would you be
Sure.
do that for us?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, that would be just awesome. And then what light are we going to use? That light over there?
You can use that one, yeah.
That'd be
But I'll
perfect.
try and come in on that side and give you a bit more there from
Oh,
that side.
sweet. Yeah, 'cause we've got this huge branch that's just coming through. So much. Yeah, hang on. We'll go out the way.
I think I'll pass on that one, okay. It's all about being courteous. A bunch of really impressive photographers on that vehicle that need to get in just to get a better look. We'll try from a different angle ourselves and see what we can do from this side. Actually, for us it's a little bit better, in fact, because from here we get to see quarantine and pleasure. Confirm, Christine. Hello, Christine in Texas. Why are her ears so chewed up? And do they fight each other often? Kind of hard for me to answer that, Christine, not knowing this hyena or its history, but yes, most likely through fighting and biting. Rather unusual in that the other hyena came in, sort of had a nibble and has now moved off to the dam. Maybe just going for a drink first before. I know that feeling, you can't eat on an empty stomach. Clearly not very happy about the status quo, but not very much he can do about it. Joyce wants to know if he's cornered or if he can escape. He can clearly escape, Joyce. He's got a couple of trees here that he just has to get a few feet off of the ground. But he can back off into the bush where he's lying. You can see just behind him, very dense bush. He can back off into there if he needed. But there is a bush willow just behind him. There's a small torchwood here in front of us. There is ample avenue of escape for him. The vehicles that are here, there is only myself, Scott, and one other vehicle, and we're all staying on the one side, so there is 270 degrees of avenue of escape for him from a vehicle point of view. From a hyena point of view, probably faster than them, and probably will dash up one of these trees, even if it's a low bush that'll barely hold his weight. He just has to get off the ground. But as long as the hyena have this carcass to play on. There's no need for them to get any further aggressive with him. There's no need for them to confront him. He's acquiesced. Look at that. He's even ignoring them to some degree, putting his head down. He knows that he's not in much danger as long as he can relinquish his kill and satisfies the need of the hyenas to feed. I can hear the hippo splashing around. He must be waking up. Let's just try and inch a few inches. Just in one little branch in his face. Sound of a brown-hooded kingfisher saying good night. I change position just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just to change the angle of so that we don't have too much blocking. There's a few branches blocking his face. I just need to check. We get in a little bit tighter here. A little bit of shadow now. I suppose there's not much we can do about it, either a branch or shadow. Right up against, almost with the hyena's butt in his face. I wouldn't be surprised if he smacks the hyena. And that's now sort of getting to sort of 3 feet in front of him. That's a cheeky hyena. Unless there's a plan involved. This is the most unique experience we're going to have in a long time, having in one frame like this hyena and leopard So close. Limited aggression. And I think his patience is being tested here, because any minute now he's going to get really angry, I think. Just looking at his mood, going the way his ears are positioned. If that hyena backs up anymore, I think he's going to start swinging claws. Well, what's going to be interesting is swapping over to Jigger. Let's swap over to Jigger, Scott and Brian, and see it from that angle. And I'll be back with you shortly. But let's see what the angle looks like from the other side.
Well, good evening from myself and Brian on the Jigger, and thankfully things have been sorted out with our audio problem. What an incredible sighting this is. And myself and Brian certainly didn't think we'd be enjoying this a little bit earlier. But thankfully Candace, the camp manager of Djuma, needed to get a tyre changed as she had a flat tyre in this position, so we came along, brought her a spare tyre, and we're in the right place at the right time. To witness behavior like this is truly incredible. I cannot believe how close they are to one another.
It must be, what, 2 meters?
We are 2 meters, if that. And even though this may happen fairly often out here in the Sabi Sands, it's not something that we often get to see or to share with you, so I hope you're all enjoying this thoroughly. We've just got a question through from Sharon in Pittsburgh. Good evening, Sharon, and welcome on board. Sharon is interested to know why the hyena is not really focusing on eating the bones and the skin, as she heard that they do eat those parts of the body, and they certainly are capable of doing that. But when they've got the opportunity to eat large chunks of meat, they would prefer to do that. So this is a lucky scenario that allows the hyena to feed predominantly on meat, and if it gets to a point where it's still hungry and there's only bones left, it will certainly be able to consume them. So good that you noticed that, but it's simply because it's got better options at the moment than just the skin and the bones. We've just got the same question from 2 different people, one from Deb in Vegas and the other from Eileen in Boston. And they are both interested to know why this hyena hasn't called the other hyena to come along and join in the feast. And it's a good question. My guess would be that if it lets out a loud call, other hyena that may not be related to it or within its clan may also be attracted to the kill, and that would obviously mean less food for this one. Not only hyena would be attracted by those calls, also any lion in the area could potentially respond. So that is the reason why. It's just being greedy, I guess, and it's normal behavior in nature for each individual to care for itself ahead of its clan mates or even pride members when it comes to feeding. Nikki, I'm not sure who's got the better angle, but just let us know which camera you're on, please. No, no problem. I was just wondering if you were just staying on me with Mark's picture. Well, folks, at the moment we can't really move our vehicle much. We're in a bit of a jam here, and as you can see, Brian doesn't have a great angle, so we're going to... Oh, well, that's just about to change. So now Brian does have a good angle, and there's no need to link back to Mark. And isn't this just incredible? Seconds ago there was a hyena feeding on this Inyala, and now the leopard, which was just lying only a few meters away, has come to take its turn. This is incredible. As you can see, he's still very nervous. There could be other hyena and or other predators attracted to this kill, so he will be very cautious in the situation. And he'll know when he's lying just a few meters away from the kill, he's not a threat to anyone and not in their way of the food, whereas when he's feeding on the carcass, he therefore becomes competition and will certainly increase his alertness now. We will probably just keep chopping and changing between whoever's got the best view, so Nikki in final control will let me know. It looks like Mark may have got himself into a great spot there. I sadly cannot move where I am, and Nikki's just confirmed Mark's got a great shot, so we'll cut across to him and catch up with you a little bit later.
Some rather unique behavior that we've been witnessing, especially with that hyena dragging the carcass with its rump towards him, where he had to back off. Actually, he had to reverse because the hyena was almost backing into him, and he didn't even do anything. Well, that just goes to show that he probably chose to just leave it be. Interesting, the hyena's obviously fed and she's moved on. That is a very round hyena. I'm thinking possibly pregnant, but that is a hyena that's certainly been through the wars. Missing a tail, chewed up ear, scarred and battered, but at least it gives, through his patience, gives him a bit of time to feed again. It's rather unique circumstances that the other hyena just came in, sniffed around and moved off. See what it looks like if I put my floodlight off. A little bit of side lighting and shadow.
Better with it on.
Yeah, too much shadow. Interesting that he's choosing to feed on skin rather than trying to get. I mean, the shoulders are still there. What is interesting that I'm noticing now is all the limbs are missing, and that is reminiscent, or rather, that is sort of. That's got crocodile written all over it. Crocodile catching something and starting at the limbs, taking the limbs off. And maybe, just maybe, that's how this all went down. Croc or Nyala. Stolen by hyena or leopard. Leopard and hyena have been sharing it over the last day or so. Really a conundrum, really a puzzle of note. Well, now that he's moved a little bit, let's go back to Scott from the other angle and we'll look head on onto him from Scott's angle. We'll go back to Scott now.
Welcome back, and as I suspected, there may be a little bit of ping pong between the two vehicles this evening as this incredible sighting unfolds. I've heard an animal crunching on some bones just behind myself and Brian, so obviously there's another hyena on the scene that has found some scraps, and it'll be interesting to see what happens if and when it finishes the bones and its hunger drives it forward onto this carcass. Sadly for quarantine, as you can see, it's not easy to maneuver this carcass, and that's just dragging it along the ground. It's in so many pieces, so for it to get it up a tree would be close to impossible, but let's see what happens. As also Mark mentioned earlier, there's not many trees nearby, so that doesn't make it any easier. Just got a question through from Ellen. Good evening, Ellen. And Ellen is interested to know whether the kill was too big when, and if he actually made it. This Inyala kill would have been too big for him to carry up a tree. And that's a good question. It's hard to say. I haven't seen him hoist enough kills, but a young male Inyala is a fairly large prey item to get up a tree. That's not to say that he couldn't, and not to say that's why he didn't. We're not too sure of exactly how the kill unfolded, but I don't think it's out of his weight category to get this kill up a tree if he really wanted to. So that's my personal opinion. Large male leopards have been, and I know he is a youngster, but large male leopards have been known to take prey as big as medium-sized zebra, wildebeest, and even baby giraffe up trees. So they're incredibly strong cats pound for pound, and it's believed that they are one of the strongest. So it may not be that his strength failed him, possibly his experience or wisdom let him down in this case. Tess in Ohio, good evening and welcome along. Tess was wondering if this kill will ever get to a point that it becomes too rotten for the leopard to feed on. And even now the kill is quite tangy, but I've seen both lion and leopard feeding on carcasses that are covered in maggots, and this one hasn't got to that stage yet. So I think there's still a day or two left, or possibly a day worth of feeding left on it if it could get it up a tree and eat it to itself. I sadly don't think there'll be much left here in the morning. So there's no fear of it being left for rotting purposes. Basically they'll eat a kill up until they're competing with the maggots for the last bits. There's no real point where they stop feeding on kills that I've seen. Occasionally on animals like giraffe, they'll get to a point where parts of the hide have become too hard to feed on, even for the hyena, and or rotten, but very seldom anything gets left behind. Copy. Will it be okay if I inch forward a foot or two? Yeah. Is that good? Is that good? Thank you. Cool, thank you.
Beautiful reflections, absolutely stunning. It's almost like mercury. Okay. Croc seems to be keeping a bit of a low profile. So you can turn that one off and turn that one off. Keep an eye on if he's not, leopard's not coming this side. So I seem to, the quarantine has moved off of the kill now. Scott's saying I think he's moved off. But I know, I'm pretty sure that this crocodile is going to come out and is going to claim something. I'm sure it'll try and claim something later. Not much of the crocodile we can see. Snout and eyes and ears. Hello Chantal, in Montreal. Bonsoir. Difficult question, Chantal. Why would the hyena leave? And he can't remember the question exactly, but Chantal was asking why would it be hyena leave and let quarantine to feed. I suppose Chantal primarily because they don't need to feed anymore. They are fed. They've had enough. I remember there was a hyena that walked off with a big chunk today. I'm wondering if that might not have been one of the legs of the nyala. But there's only so much an animal can eat, and there's only so much it can put in its belly. But still, a question, why, any sort of question like that, why does an animal do what it does, it's sometimes very, very difficult, because the only one that really knows why is often the very animal that's doing it. And it's very hard for us. We can speculate and we can try and analyze it and try and think of what we're watching, or try and interpret what we're watching, but we will never know true reasons why. It's all inside the heads of these animals. They're not automatic behavioral creatures. They don't work on automatic stimuli. They are thinking, feeling, calculating, active creatures. And whilst we're witnessing this today, next week if we found the same individuals in similar circumstances, we might find them behaving in an entirely different manner. If the hyena were very, very hungry and the leopard had just made a kill and the leopard was very, very hungry, we might find a completely different scenario. So please don't for 1 minute think that what we're witnessing tonight is what normally happens, because there's nothing normal about anything that happens as far as behavior is concerned. Things happen the way they do for whatever reason it is, and that is very often only the animals that know why they do things. Kathleen, good question from Kathleen actually. Would the crocodile bother any of the buffalo that are here? I think the croc's a bit small for buffalo. I think it's probably big enough to take a nyala or impala, but it's certainly far too small for the buffalo. So I think, much like the sort of amicable arrangement that it has with the hippo, probably croc is going to be just as behave in a very similar manner to the... Sorry, no, just lights. Sorry, I was going to start the car. Sounds like hyena back there. It looks like quarantine is heading down below the dam wall. I think Scott's with quarantine. Crocodile's not doing much. So, just quickly, they'll cover to cross over to Scott before we lose quarantine, because Crocodile's not doing anything. Let's go over and see what's...
Welcome back, and quarantine's just started moving away from the dam, and these might be the last little glimpses we have of him as he disappears into some thicker vegetation. So this is goodbye from quarantine, and what an evening it's been. Hold on, I should be able to creep up a little bit more. Hold on a second. Let's see what I can do here. And as you can see now, he is heading down into some thicker vegetation, and he'll probably want to get himself away from the kill and the danger of the kill, where he can relax and digest his meal. He's already been feeding on for a while now, a few days. Andrew, if you head south, you'll bump into him maybe. He's headed south from here. Well, what an evening it's been, and I hope you've all been thoroughly enjoying yourselves. It's been an absolutely incredible sighting this, and like I said, even though this may happen fairly frequently in the Sabi Sands, where leopards and hyena have interacted for many years, and hyena have almost specialized in stealing from leopards here, more so than lions. But to see that is something else. I can't remember when last I saw that in the Sabi Sands, and I spent 3.5 years here, so, and I don't remember having a sighting of a leopard and a hyena in that proximity to one another, completely relaxed. It was quite something, and hope you all got some great screenshots. I'm sure you did, especially I think Mark had some great positioning of his vehicle to show you some incredible shots. And well, I guess it's goodbye from myself and Brian, and we'll see you all in the morning. Brian's last drive tomorrow morning, so make sure that you tune in if you want to get some of his fantastic camera work. He's going to be taking, I think it's 3 weeks leave from tomorrow afternoon, so it'll be Brian's last drive and myself and Mark and VM will continue the show, and Romeo will be coming back tomorrow, one of the old cameramen from the initial broadcasts. So I think it's gonna be, well, here comes Mark, so we can both say goodbye, I guess, together. Put lights there, please, VM, and Mark. Yeah, this isn't really it's not gonna be easy to work this out where we are, but we'll try. He's gone. Well, what an evening it's been, Mark, eh?
Wow. Absolutely unbelievable. And there's the other hyena that's now coming on. But Scott, did you notice that none of the limbs are here? On this carcass.
Now that you say so, I realize.
And what does a crocodile do first?
It takes off the limbs.
Spins those limbs off first, mostly.
So there is a chance that it was the croc that made the kill initially.
I'm sitting right on top of it. It's quite a it's quite a strong scented, quite a strong perfume. It is. Although there was a hyena that moved off earlier today, that was carrying something in its jaws, and it could be that maybe, you know, there's so many possibilities. We've got lion, or rather we've got hyena, leopard, and we've got crocodile. So each one of them could have done something. I don't think the hyenas would have, because they would have brought in the clan.
Yeah.
And they would have probably torn it apart. So I think it was either leopard or croc.
But either way, it's resulted in some incredible sightings and game viewing.
Unbelievable.
So, when last did you see leopard and hyena in this kind of a proximity to one another?
With this kind of amicability, this kind of, I couldn't believe it. You probably had a better view when that hyena was backing into him with the carcass.
Yeah, I mean, it was so close.
I thought he was going to get up and give it a few claws on the back, but I was waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
I've seen similar. I can remember, and a lot of the viewers are going to remember that one time we had in that little dip between the two arms of Treehouse Dam on Weaver's Nest.
Okay.
We had Karula and Mission Induna and her two boys. You can't see it now because there's a fallen tree, but behind that fallen tree, when you look up towards Treehouse Dam from Weaver's Nest, there's a dead tree that goes up at a 45-degree angle, and they had an impala kill there, and the hyenas came in, as hyenas normally do, because this is not normal. What, can you hear something? And the two boys just managed to get up onto that fallen tree just in time without having their heels or their tails nipped. But there was that little bit of aggression between them to be witness to this kind of interaction. Well, it wasn't really an interaction, it was more a case of ignoring the leopard and him just knowing that as long as there was that kill, the hyena wouldn't do anything. Are we on your camera?
Yeah, well, what a great evening, and I think I'm going to continue on, Marcus, and start heading back to camp. And what a bonus that we could share that together, thanks to Candice's flat tire that brought me out here. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Indeed, indeed. So I'm going to say good night, and I'll leave it in your hands.
Perfect, Marcus.
Good night, everybody, and thanks for being with us this afternoon from me and VM on camera. We'll see you in the morning, I guess. Back to camp.
Cool.
Which way are you going to go?
I'll just take this west-eastern link and then onto Buffalo Cut Line.
Okay.
Cool. I do want to have one sneaky look and see if there's any sign of this crocodile, because it's such great news. I really do love crocodiles and have been hoping that one would arrive at one of the dams, and it certainly has, and it's a beautiful big crocodile. I actually came out here between game drives this morning to have a closer look at it for myself, because it's fresh news to us that there's a crocodile around, and it's quite a big guy. Let's see if we can see it. Ah, there he is. it really would be absolutely wonderful to know how this crocodile got here, its journey to this position, because I'm not sure of the closest dam where there is a crocodile. Sadly, our traversing doesn't allow that for us, but they're incredible predators, and one of the oldest, or certainly probably the oldest predator in this ecosystem in terms of evolution, and it's been around for millions and millions of years. I wonder how long it'll take before it decides to head on up the hill and try and get some more of that inyala. It knows it's there. According to Mark, some of the other luckier game viewers got to see it wrestling the inyala against Quarantine, the leopard, and that would have been an incredible sight.
But either way, phenomenal interaction.
Yes, I mean, between three of the top predators in this area all feeding or basically simultaneously on the same kill is quite something. And we'll be certain to come back here in the morning and follow up and keep you guys posted on what's happened throughout the night. But from myself and Brian and Nikki in the final control, a big thank you, and we'll catch you tomorrow.